You're tuned into Awake Radio.
Straight talk for the awake and the aware.
This place, a place where all things great and small thrive. A place where human knowledge and intellect flow like a river. A place of serenity and truth. This place is where the wild things grow. With Patty Walking Turtle.
And welcome everybody to Where the Wild Things Grow. And I am your host, Walking Turtle, and I am coming to you from These Changing Times Radio, a part of the Awake Radio Network. So good to be here. I want to say hi to everybody out there, and thank you, Devin, for your awesome jingles. I just love that one. Techie dude, we love you. Just want you to know, couldn't do it without you. But anyway, we're going to have a very, very interesting discussion today. I have Barbara Threecrow, who has joined me, and also Holy Walker is lurking back there. Perhaps he'll step up and speak tonight. Otherwise, we love him anyway. But what we want to talk about, what we want to open with, because we're definitely not going to stay here. We'll go through it, but there's other things. We don't know what they are yet, but we'll get to them. One thing leads to another if you're familiar with my shows. But today I want to talk a little serious about something that is definitely of epidemic proportions right now, and that is cognitive dissonance, and how it is playing a large part in what we are witnessing today. I spent the morning looking at some videos and reading some articles, and I know a lot of you are familiar with Mark Dice, and I know that there are people pro and con. Believe it or not, a little wouldn't be cognitive dissonance there, would it, for Mark Dice? But he does things that prove to me the fact that we are not operating at the full functionality of our thinking ability, because he's gone to people and he's asked them to sign petitions to bring back Leninism and adopt it as our country's rule of law. People have signed on it because he said Obama wanted him to. Obama wants to do this, and people ran up to sign the petitions. He took an ounce of silver, 99.9999, and he offered it to people on the street outside of a gold and coin shop where you can go in and you can verify the authenticity. And people were walking by. He could not trade that bar of silver for a cup of noodles worth $1.60. Or no, the noodles were $2.98. The silver bar was worth $160. But the person would not trade that cup of noodles for that bar of silver.
What is that?
That's Holy Walker being tripped out on his microphone.
That's ridiculous.
Okay. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, where we are today. Hi, Alan.
What was all that?
That was you warbling in and out. You might go ahead and try again. Go ahead. You have to speak.
Hello?
Okay. Today is a lurking day for Holy Walker. Anyway, I want to read this out And I didn't have time to clip it out of there, so I just wrote it down. And it's very true. Um, but before we do, Barb, can you see the cognitive dissonance that we're experiencing right now? Can you see it?
Well, I can certainly recognize what you're talking about. Yeah, cognitive. Cognition. Our cognition is basically our awareness and our understanding and our perceptions about things. It's about, reasoning.
Yeah, exactly. And but don't you feel that there's an epidemic
Oh, I
of
do.
yeah.
Well, it's sort of like what this really means is, yeah, it's sort of like things that make us uncomfortable, so uncomfortable that, it's discord within us, and people can't handle the conflict and the discord. Um, because they have a certain perception or certain reasoning. They've determined their own reasoning about things. They've determined their own perceptions, their own understanding and awareness of things. And where does that come from? What we know, it's coming basically from the dumbing down system or the brainwashing system. So when you start, hello,
Sorry.
oh, so when you start. Yeah, let's say when you talk to someone with a different, and you bring in a different perception of something or introduce something that maybe be factual, for instance, we could go so far as to say, that there's all sort of, you know, um, information that is factual if you do research, for instance, or even if you have a very strong intuitive perception of things, which is sometimes I function that way. When you feel a truth and you know for sure that this is a fact, okay, and people can't handle it, it creates dissonance in them, and they can't handle that. So they try to figure out
Justify it.
how to justify, and this is what's happening today. People are justifying or sticking their heads in the sand as a safety measure, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. And uh, that's why I want to talk a lot about this today, because each one of us who have been trying to spread the word, to give the people the knowledge that they need so that they can, make the right decisions. We know what we're up against. Sometimes we forget, though. We are aware of the ability of the manipulation factor and of how this cognitive dissonance has been inbred by society, and it's a continual thing. It is continually reinforced in society, so that we are unable, even if we wanted to justify stepping away from what we think is our security. One of the hardest things that a person could ever know is a person who is well comfortable in their world and then be told that their world doesn't really exist, that it's really this way and not the comfy chair that they thought they had. And that's what we're asking people to accept right now. And they're freaking out. It's
Well,
because not only because they come to this decision by themselves, they've been bred to react in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
I
people have
wanted.
put in great effort. Great effort. How much effort people have been putting into this, how they've determined to hold these certain beliefs or these, what they so-called have been told or brainwashed, and now you're shaking them up and you're introducing something different, and they're terrified. Go ahead, Holy Walker, sorry.
I was going to say that. Yeah. Well, it's kind of within our nature, or maybe it's part of programming and part of our nature that we don't want to be wrong, And so it makes it hard for us to admit when we're wrong or when we've invested so much of our supposed intellect into a false paradigm or a false ideal, a false perception, and that leads into not wanting to admit that you've been deceived. Is that innate desire to we don't intentionally want to be wrong, and the more of our intellect, the more of our understanding that we've invested in based on something that is false, the more difficult it tends to become for us to admit that that is not the truth. That that's where that cognitive dissonance comes from.
Yeah,
Your mic's just a tad loud, Holy Walker.
it's like psychologically uncomfortable. Listen, I mean, I can remember when I started to realize that the American dream was dead, and maybe there never was an American dream to begin with, but that the American dream was no longer, or was dead. And I mean, I found out because I was interested in things and investigating and putting two and two together myself. But there's a difference there, even though it was, disturbing to me. The truth was more important to me than, putting my head in the sand and just continuing to believe, in the American dream, let's say, or in the government or the system having our best interests at heart. So the difference, yeah.
But Barb, when you were growing up, you were always on the outside looking in, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
I think that's the difference between us and those people who are still caught up. And we too, to an extent, are still suffering from the same thing.
Yeah.
Cognitive dissonance.
Well, I still had some semblance of a belief, but I was on the outside looking in on many levels. But I think it's been layers and layers and layers over years of discovering, the truths as opposed to what we thought were truth. And but I think the difference is that part of what you said is a difference, but I think it's also something inside of us that suddenly, rings a bell or something that wakes us up where we want to actually find the truth, where we get a signal, where we want to do research, where we start actually having the ability to read something or observe something or listen to people. And here's the difference: to not shut down and immediately jump to the conclusion that that's false because of that cognitive dissonance that we feel. The feeling of this is so disturbing.
Yeah.
People can't handle that feeling.
Yeah. I want to read this, and then we'll go. I've got a couple of clips that I want to play. One's a song, and this song, you can get it on YouTube. It was written by, I think, a teacher who did it for his students. And I was kind of thinking, at first, well, I wonder what this could possibly be about. But it's a pretty good song, and so I want to play that. And then I've got another clip from a test that was done in the 60s, I do believe, testing the ability for people to fall into this cognitive dissonance. And so we'll listen to that a little bit later, but right now I want to read this because this also came from a YouTube video, and I'm sorry I've lost the name to it. I was going to let you know because it's to an interview, which is also really, really good. You might be able to find it. If not, I'll try to find it later and post it. And that's my granddaughter, Izzy. But anyway, I'm going to read this now. It's Your ignorance is not because the truth is not available to you. There have been radicals preaching it for thousands of years. No, you are ignorant because you shun the truth with all your heart and soul. You close your eyes and run away when a hint of reality lands in front of you. You condemn as extremists and fringe kooks those who try to show you the chains you are wearing. You don't want to be free. Responsibility and reality scare the hell out of you, so you cling tightly to your own enslavement and lash out at any who seek to free you from it. When someone opens the door to your cage, you cower back in the corner and yell, "Close it." This is from Larkin Rose in the Iron Web. How true. How true it is. We have today, right now, people rising up against a flag, against material with a picture imprinted on it. And they are saying that this flag must be removed. I am not racist. I am anti-racist. I think it is ludicrous that people will rise up to fight against the colors and the stripes on a flag, but will not rise up to stop the atrocities in Palestine or in Africa or in South America. You know, it's what is wrong? What is wrong that people are so willing to lash out at each other over these silly, silly, silly things? You know, what does the rebel flag stand for? It does not stand for racism. It stands for an ideology, just like every other flag for every other people. The Ku Klux Klan has their own flag. It's the American flag. You ever notice that? Nobody's saying anything about that. This is crazy. It's absolutely insane.
I think it's just again to fuel that the race wars and the hatred, and just keep that going. It's another one of those things they throw into the mix. Let's get everybody riled up to keep them focused on that stuff. Yeah, and not keep them focused on Palestine and what's going on
or the TPP.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, we've got so many things going wrong, but we can't justify it.
People are easily led. They have to go with the masses. They have to go with the wolf pack, because back to that cognitive dissonance again. If you step outside of the system, or outside of the box, outside of what they're pushing you how to believe or act or see things, it's too uncomfortable. You're in the flow with the sheeple. That feels comfortable to people. Don't you think that's part of it?
Yes, in with the flock. Yeah. And if you're in the center of the flock, you have less chance getting taken by the wolf.
I also think that this whole thing about what happened there with the church and the whole situation is another ploy to get the control of guns, because immediately that came right into the front pages. It's about
everything. Yes, everything is suspect. We're dealing. Lori Bulow, I think you sent me the video.
Yeah.
She mentioned something called, and she said, we are dealing with imperfect information. And that is so apropos, because even the truth that we have is inconclusive, is half of the picture, sometimes less than that. We cannot decipher what parts of the truth are truth. We only go by an emotional reaction to what we have, to that truth, because we have nothing else to fall back on. it pays off in a lot of places. Then we do move on, and we do find information, and we do find collaboration, and we do find the truth to be the truth. But a lot of this other, it's filled with fake statistics, facts, science papers, all of these different things. Half of these things that they're throwing at us are simply, it's just alarming pictures. Everything you see is bombs going off, and first responders, and people running from in fear, and your home is no longer secure, and all of these different things. And then they tell us that they're keeping us safe. And people are in their homes, and they want to believe that everything the government's doing, keeping them safe, they have to let them do that, because if they don't do that, then the bad guys are going to come get them, because they're getting them everywhere else, and they're going to get them here. It's just one big giant circus.
Well, that it is true. And before you go a little further, I'm going to read this piece here that, this is about the game which is played out on us. It's like like with chess game. They're not only change the rules without our knowledge, but they are always several moves ahead. And history has shown that we are consistently trailing in the game, on the table, on the board. We have learned more than we knew in the beginning of the game, but the gap between us and our opponents always remains the same. Our opponents are skilled in games of deceit and deception. They've easily predicted at what point we would recognize their strategy of their previous moves. They basically mock us for not knowing that which they have taken much effort in concealing from us, and they somehow believe they have superior skills and abilities. But that is a mistake which will cost them in the long run. They incorrectly interpret their sleight of hand and their rearranging of the board when we leave the room as skill, when in fact is only a testament of their desire to win, no matter how corrupt and scandalous that their actions prove to be. They watch us at a distance, as we know. They look at every move. They set up things to see how we react. They're gauging our movements. They're gauging our behavior and our reactions. And they have come to learn that we would focus upon the last move of theirs and that we were aware of, and count on us to dwell on the most recent observations and argue among ourselves. Okay. Or go into denial. They know they will have the opportunity to adjust any of the board's pieces to their liking, while some of us think in one direction and others of us think in a different direction. They are calculating us, basically, on us being ignorant. So, we're talking about the depths of lies and deceit used to draw us into the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. We never wanted to play this game to begin with, but we're sort of forced to, for the good of all. This is about the waking up, So I just wanted to bring that in about how we are in the big game.
Yeah. Well, this psychologist Leon Fistinger proposed a theory of cognitive dissonance centered on how people try to reach internal consistency. He suggested that people have an inner need to ensure that their beliefs and behaviors are consistent. Inconsistent or conflicting beliefs lead to disharmony, which people strive to avoid. In his book, A Theory of Cognitive Dissonance, Festinger explained cognitive dissonance can be seen as an antecedent condition which leads to activity oriented toward dissonance, reduction, just as hunger leads toward activity oriented toward hunger reduction. It is a very different motivation from what psychologists are used to dealing with, but nonetheless powerful. The amount of dissonance people experience can depend on a few different factors, including how highly we value a particular belief and the degree to which our beliefs are inconsistent. The overall strength of the dissonance can be influenced by several factors. Cognitions that are more personal, such as beliefs about self, tend to result in greater dissonance. The importance of the cognitions also plays a role. Things that involve highly valued typically result in stronger dissonance. The ratio between dissonant thoughts and consonant thoughts can also play a role in how strong the feelings of dissonance are. The greater the strength of dissonance, the more pressure there is to relieve the feelings of discomfort. Cognitive dissonance can often have a powerful influence on your behaviors and actions. Let's look at some examples. Examples of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance can occur in many areas of life, but it is particularly evident in situations where an individual's behavior conflicts with beliefs that are integral to his or her self-identity. For example, consider a situation in which a man who places a value on being environmentally responsible just purchased a new car that he later discovers does not get great gas mileage. The conflict. It is important for the man to take care of the environment. He is driving a car that is not environmentally friendly. In order to reduce this dissonance between belief and behavior, he has a few different choices. He can sell the car, purchase another one that gets better gas mileage, or he can reduce his emphasis on the environmental responsibility. In the case of the second option, his dissonance could be further minimized by engaging in actions that reduce the impact of driving a gas-guzzling vehicle, such as utilizing public transportation more frequently or riding his bike to work on occasion. A more common example of cognitive dissonance occurs in the purchasing decisions we make on a regular basis. Most people want to hold the belief that they make good choices. When a product or item we purchase turns out badly, it conflicts with our previously existing belief about our decision-making abilities. The person who continues to smoke, knowing that it is bad for his health, may also feel he enjoys smoking so much it's worth it, or the chances of his health suffering are not as serious as some would make out, or he can't always avoid every possible dangerous contingency and still live. Or perhaps even if he stopped smoking, he would put on weight, which is equally bad for his health. So continuing to smoke is after all consistent with his ideas about smoking. This article will go on how to reduce cognitive dissonance. We might talk about that a little bit later, but you get the idea of how easily we fall into these categories. We may not be the sheeple. We may be quite aware, yet still within ourselves we are in conflict with our belief systems and our realities. It is very hard to create a harmony between the two today because it's been engineered that way. Society and everything about life has been engineered to fit in the box, and we are outside the box.
Right. Well, it's sort of like the question is, do people really think things are going to iron themselves out? But this is the way people deal with this cognizant dissonance is. They'll tell you, we'll give it time, we're just going through a hiccup, everything works out, yada, 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 because
Right.
that's what they want to believe, It's the constructed world system basically is waiting with open arms to reinforce that insanity, And people say if millions of others feel the same way, I can't possibly be wrong. It's acceptance for seeming security. That's what we're talking about.
Right. And so what we're up against is much more devious, much more integrated than any political movement, any little fight over the colors on a piece of cloth. It's deeper than all the aspects that we are threatened with today, yet it's not being spoken of, it's not being talked about. We aren't reaching out to quell this. What can we do? How do you quell that dissonance within yourself? How are we able to harmonize?
That's a very good question because, what we're really talking about is we're talking about a threat. We're talking about people feel threatened. So they shut down because of that threat. It's discomfort. This cognizant dissonance is a big threat to people. It's about our comfort. Sleepwalking, you could call it sleepwalking or oblivion, whatever you want, but it's pretty much an endemic at this point in time. And it's all systems that we're looking at. It's the education system. We're talking generations of this. That's why I said how much invested is the elite agenda to keep us in this state where any kind of a light or any kind of a difference of opinion or a truth or let's investigate or let's explore or I disagree or it's when when the whole thing with the Iraq War started, 9/11 and all that appeared, I said there are no weapons of mass destruction. And there's another piece because you have, again, the sheeple flowing along with the authorities telling them that if we don't go there, those weapons of mass destruction will be used upon us. So everybody shifts in that direction, and follows into, the path of the sheeple. And when somebody says that's not true, there are no weapons of mass destruction. This is an opportunity for us. I felt that it was a point in time waiting for us to change the pattern of, the mindset of an eye for an eye, and so on, where you just bomb another country. I felt that this was a point in time where we could have made a huge, amazing change, but that didn't happen. Yeah.
I don't think the people are capable.
Doesn't seem so, right?
Right.
Because you just have this, again, these things with the police violence, the murdering of black men, and one thing after another happening, keeping the blindness about race, has the situation as far as the prejudices and hatred and so on, that the slave mentality, whatever you want to call it, it's just been continued. It's never ended. But people could sit there on TV and, the newscasters and say there's no such thing as a race issue here. That's not true.
Right. And we have, it is so meshed that we have no escape from it. The newscasters are under the impression that, and they are also, we've seen it, fighting within themselves, suffering from cognitive dissonance when they are told to say this and know that it is a lie. We've seen newscasters, they destroy them. Either they destroy themselves or they're destroyed by their moguls, their peers, for speaking out, for trying to stand for the truth that they know. So it's even politically incorrect to tell the truth. And this is what people are grappling with. Excuse me. This is what people are grappling with further up the corporate ladders. Not all of these people are dealing with the mindset of knowing the true malicious harm and intent that is behind these corporations and their CEOs and their shareholders. Even the shareholders are ignorant. They think it's all about money. And these people are furthering the agenda and the propaganda and suffering as everyone else is. Is it no wonder that they can get on the news and lie to you? I find it perfectly natural in the type of environment that they're living, you know?
Right. Well, we have learned not to question authority. We've been trained not to question authority. You can see this on daily news when how people react or don't react. They're taught, basically, people are taught that the so-called authorities determine what really happened. And you say, oh, okay, that's what really happened. No matter how obvious it could be, it's like people are just completely in a zone. You talk about the zombie apocalypse. I think we're in it. That's what I feel. The people are like zombies.
And I've been watching some. I watch a lot of the old B rated and I mean D rated. The ones that are so bad with small budgets. And it's amazing if you go back to watch these movies, the amount of awareness that is being portrayed through the bad writing, and the bad direction. All these movies, they hold bits and pieces of what is going on to the awareness level of knowing what is going on. They all portray these things. And I'm always astounded that even when I was young, that I didn't catch this. To me, it was just a movie.
Right.
But we have been being fed, force-fed, even in the most innocuous places, this cognitive dissonance. It's just everywhere.
Well, it's uncomfortable. It's not a comfortable where we find ourselves in a very uncomfortable place, and that's why we're having this discussion, because this is about waking up, and it's not comfortable to come to the realization that we've been lied to, and that it's right here in our face, and we didn't even see it, like you're saying, like the movies and cartoons and whatever it is we've all been watching. It's been right there all along. All the little signs, all the little nuances, all of it has been laid out for us. And this is the irony, is that it's been laid out for us as a brainwashing to accept this type of thing as it's okay. This is just okay, But it's there also to see how we react, to see feeding us certain things, like on the news or in the various things that happen, what they set up, feeding us these things to see how we're going to respond. Are they awake yet? Are they getting it yet? Well, they're not yet, or some of them are, but, not enough. So
Right.
It's the waking up, which is not comfortable. It's a lot of hard work, and it does take a lot of courage, but it's about taking responsibility, because, we're talking about the cost, literally the cost of if we don't wake up.
Yeah.
This is what we have to come to understand. Where are we heading? What does all this mean? And what is it going to be when it's reaches that final point, whatever it's going to be, where people say, "Oh, gee, why didn't I know this?" Or, why didn't my friends tell me this? So,
Exactly.
why didn't I wake up, right?
Yeah. And I've got a couple of clips that we're going to play here in a minute. Like I said, one is a song, and it was written by, I believe, to be a teacher, and he wrote it for students in his class. I think it's very good. It's Cognitive Dissonance, Dissonant and Justified. And then I have a lesson in cognitive dissonance, and you can find both of those on YouTube. But I'm going to play them in a minute. I wanted to see if Holy Walker wanted to give a comment to what we've been talking about before we go to these clips. Are you with us, Holy Walker?
Well, I think we're good. We're ready for those clips.
Okay. All right. Well, Barb, if you want, you can head on over to the site. Just go ahead and mute yourself here, head on over to the site and listen to it. They're both about I guess it'll be about 9 minutes, a little over 9 minutes for the both of them. So
Okay.
anyway, you are listening to Where the Wild Things Grow, and I am your host today, joined by Barbara Three Crow of Turtle Talk and Holy Walker, who is a part of the Awake family and joins us periodically on our shows when he wants to speak. Otherwise, he lurks in the corner. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to play cognitive dissonance and then a lesson in cognitive dissonance, and we'll see you on the other side.
Story of decision-making doesn't end, however, when a decision has been made. The act of making a decision can trigger a flood of other processes. According to psychologist Leon Festinger, whenever we choose to do something that conflicts with our prior beliefs, feelings, or values, a state of cognitive dissonance is created in us, a tension between what we think and what we do. When this tension makes us uncomfortable enough, we're motivated to reduce it in a number of ways. We may change the way we think about the decision, or try to change how others think about it so that they can support our decision. Or we may change some aspect of our behavior so that our decision seems more in character with us. In other words, we try to reduce the dissonance between how we think we should act and how we actually act by changing one or the other. In the mid-50s, Leon Festinger and his colleague Merrill Carlsmith conducted a classic experiment in which students were engaged in very boring tasks. The students were then given a request by one of Festinger's staff.
Okay, that's fine. Let me tell you now what we're actually studying here. It's the effect of preparatory mental set on performance. The rest of the subjects are prepared by being told that the experiment will be very interesting and enjoyable. In fact, lots of fun. Now I have a somewhat unusual request to make of you. The next subject is waiting right outside, but the fellow who ordinarily gives the spiel isn't here. I wonder if you could possibly take his place. As a matter of fact, we figure we'll be needing someone in the future, so I'd like to offer you a $20 retainer and have you remain on call for us. Would that be all right?
$20? That'd be fine.
Half the students were randomly assigned to the group that received $20 for lying that the experiment was fun. The other half were given only $1 for lying.
$1 as a sort of a retainer and have you remain on call with us. Would that be all right with you?
Yes, that'll be all right.
The cognitive dissonance came from the knowledge that the experiment was in fact boring, and $1 was insufficient reward for lying. Many of the $1 subjects actually convinced themselves that the experiment was fun after they made their decision, to reduce the dissonance between their prior beliefs and their behavior. They came to believe a big lie for a small incentive.
To a girlfriend of mine who participated in an experiment last week, and she said it was very tedious.
Oh, I don't think that was the same experiment because this one wasn't boring at all. I didn't think so.
The $20 subjects, on the other hand, felt no dissonance because they felt comfortable in lying just for the money.
He said it was pretty miserable and that I should do everything I could to get out of it. Well, I think maybe your friend was wrong. Perhaps it's a different experiment because this was a lot of fun. It appeared to me as if it were a puzzle. We had to turn these knobs, and I tried to figure out what we were doing it for, but I really couldn't figure it out. I she'll have better luck.
Other theories might predict that the man who is paid most would have the highest motivation for enthusing over the dull task and would be most sold on it himself. Cognitive dissonance theory leads to an exactly opposite prediction. The man who is paid $20 knows that the task is dull, but he also knows that he had sufficient justification for saying that it wasn't. Did you enjoy working on the manual test?
Well, it really wasn't too enjoyable. In fact, it was rather boring.
How about the man who is paid $1? He knows the task is dull, but he has two discrepant thoughts. He also knows that he did not have sufficient justification for saying that it wasn't. For him, there is dissonance. Time after time, we have seen what follows. He reduces the dissonance by changing his opinion about the dullness of the task. Did you enjoy working on the manual test?
Yes, I enjoyed it.
Would you like to participate in such an experiment again?
Yes, I think I would like to.
Anytime there is insufficient reward, there will be dissonance. The general principle seems to be that people come to believe in and to love the things they have to suffer for.
By discovering how people actually behave and not how some theory says they ought to behave, psychology can provide guidelines to help us catch ourselves before we go astray, or redirect us once we do.
Okay, and welcome back. I just had to play that little tune there because it was so apropos. I'm going to read a little bit more here, and then we'll get back to the discussion. According to Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance, people try to seek consistencies in their thoughts, beliefs, and opinions. So when there are conflicts between cognitions, people will take steps to reduce the dissonance and feelings of discomfort. They can go about doing this in a few different ways. There are 3 key strategies to reduce or minimize cognitive dissonance. Focus more on the supportive beliefs that outweigh the dissonant belief or behavior. For example, people who learn that greenhouse emissions result in global warming might experience feelings of dissonance if they drive a gas-guzzling vehicle. In order to reduce this dissonance, they might seek out new information that disputes the connection between greenhouse gases and global warming. This new information might serve to reduce the discomfort or dissonance that the person experiences. Reduce the importance of the conflicting belief. For example, a man who cares about his health might be disturbed to learn that sitting for long periods of time during the day are linked to a shortened lifespan. Since he has to work all day in an office and spends a great deal of time sitting, it is difficult to change his behavior in order to reduce his feelings of dissonance. In order to deal with the feelings of discomfort, he might instead find some way to justify his behavior by believing that his other healthy behaviors make up for his largely sedentary lifestyle. Change the conflicting belief so that it is consistent with other beliefs or behaviors. Changing the conflicting belief or the conflicting cognition is one of the most effective ways of dealing with dissonance, but it is also one of the most difficult, particularly in the case of deeply held values and beliefs. Change can be exceedingly difficult, and the cognitive dissonance more acute. Why is cognitive dissonance important? Cognitive dissonance plays a role in many value judgments, decisions, and evaluations. Becoming aware of how conflicting beliefs impact the decision-making process is a great way to improve your ability to make faster and more accurate choices. The observations are the basic hypothesis I wish to state are as follows. 1. The existence of dissonance, being psychologically uncomfortable, will motivate the person to try to reduce the dissonance and achieve cognizance. 2. When dissonance is present, in addition to trying to reduce it, the person will actively avoid situations and information which would likely increase the dissonance. Festinger's insistence that cognitive dissonance was like a drive that needed to be reduced implied that people were going to have to find some way of resolving their inconsistencies. People do not just prefer eating over starving. We are driven to eat. Similarly, people who are in the throes of inconsistency in their social life are driven to resolve that inconsistency. How we go about dealing with our inconsistency can be rather ingenious, but in Festinger's view, there is little question that it will be done. And that's exactly what we are seeing played out right now. We are seeing people who are abandoning beliefs in order to adopt the dissonance. There are people who are adhering to their beliefs while ignoring all other information. It's on both sides. This is in every aspect of our society. We are bringing our children up at a very young age to be a part of this cognitive dissonance with what we are showing them on the video games, telling them in school, preaching to them in the church, and providing to them in the marketplace. Everything is contradictory to everything that they're being taught. This is our children. We talked before how children react in crisis, some of the symptoms, and how our children are already suffering this. If we are dealing with this level of cognitive dissonance right now in the adult population, what is going to happen with our children? What do you think, Barb?
Well, my question is, okay, this is a tactic that people use, of course, to bring comfort into their lives. The cognitive dissonance is a frightening experience, confusing and uncomfortable to the degree where people actually turn to something or a belief or a pattern or a behavior which ignores the facts, which ignores the truth. And so you have people, well, families ignoring these facts and truths, irregardless of what it's going to do to their children, ignoring what the children are looking at or how they're playing these games and how it's affecting their children. My question is, how uncomfortable will that get? I mean, there has to be something inside people. For how long can you withstand and withhold this lie or this behavior, this, shutting your ears and your eyes, shutting everything off because of your uncomfortable feeling? How long can you endure that? What's going to happen? Because inevitably there's repercussions, there's domino effect, and that's going to get worse. We're going to see things escalating. How long can you have a certain amount of population, with their heads in the sand and affecting, the next generation and so on and so forth. So we're looking at what happens in that circumstance, what's going to happen. Yes. The question again, I'm thinking what is it that makes people, what is it inside of us, for instance, that prevents us from lying? Because I was listening to that program and how people were lying, young people were lying. What was it? Because they would get money, What is it inside of us that prevents us from choosing to lie? What is it inside that guides us or doesn't, or pushes us into that, for deliberately from doing harm or doing harm?
I think it all centers with self, Barb. I asked that same question when I was watching these different videos and reading these different articles, and I think that is what it is. That people there are people who need nothing more than self-validation on both ends of the spectrum. On those who do things for the good and those who do things for the bad. There are those people who validate themselves and need no outside validation. The people that we know go by the heart, and we fall back to that. And I think there's a direct correlation between, and I know I'll probably get flack for this, I don't believe it's the aspect that we have with religion. I don't think religion plays any part in it whatsoever. Your belief in self is different from your idolarity or your idealism. Your belief in self is trusting completely in self and knowing that within yourself is contained all that you are. And that you make those choices. And then there's the other side that cannot validate themselves. The ones in the middle, they cannot validate themselves because they are accepting too much information from too many other people and ignoring the self. I think that's where it's at. I think that's the key. Strength of self.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with you with that, and I think that, there's something within ourselves that that pops up when you see something wrong happening, and something inside of you prompts you to act, to make something wrong right, or to speak against something that's happening, to speak against it, to stand up for someone or something that feels inside of you, so that you can identify. Nobody can take away our right to choose. We have that free will. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying it's about being true to ourselves. It's about free will. It's about the choices that we make. We can make our own path, or we can choose the other path, but there's that fine line in there. What prompts people to turn away from something or to make a choice that is, morally wrong? The morals, speaking of the morals, so we're talking what I feel is like generations of input where people can't even identify a moral. They can't even identify right from wrong. And then you have that, of course, that puts them into this uncomfortable feeling because of what they've been believing in all this time. I'm comfortable now because now I know. And I've got, so many other people thinking along the same lines as I do. So therefore, I'm comfortable and everything's perfectly all right. There's no problem, So,
well, another problem that we have, Barb, too, is that the way that the corporate system is set up, the morality issue, the ethical issue, are constantly being put further and further out of reach, so that if you intend to be ethical and honorable and moral in society, you must work day and night. You must climb the mountain constantly in order to get a peak over the top. Society is set up in a way, in the corporate system, it's like they teach you that there are people out there wanting to harm your children, and that you will be prosecuted, and it's the worst thing in the world. And then you go to Walmart to go buy your children's school clothes, and the clothes that they have provided for your children are promiscuous in the way they are put together. They have sweatpants with words written on the butt. For your children, your girls to be wearing. Your boys, the same thing. They tell you that you can't be a bully, you can't fight and everything, but here is this video game where you can kill people in 3D. And it's just, you can't get away from it. You have to work harder to become or to stay moral and ethical.
Well, this is the world we live in, and what we're talking about is, yes, it's difficult and it's not easy when you feel this uncomfortableness inside of you when somebody tells you something that all of your life you've believed was true or factual and correct, in fact is not. This is the challenge that we're meeting in today's world, because we're talking about all this information, we're disclosing all these facts, and and people, like you said, we just wonder. I feel people that are listening to us, I think, are on the same page, pretty much.
Right.
I think, yeah. So yeah. So to identify these things are important, because I think we all tend to have some of this. We all tend to feel uncomfortable. We all tend to shift when we read something that's so astounding and so incomprehensible. It's difficult, but we have to. The fact is that this is the world we live in. We live in such a world like this, and we have to face it for what it is. But we have to respond. That's through a conscious choice. Now, again, we're back to consciousness. Not in fear and not in anger, but in awareness, to become aware.
Right.
Of
Well,
what is really happening.
And another thing too, Barb, is that what we're dealing with, people who are aware, we're still suffering from cognitive dissonance in many aspects, trying to justify what we know is true, and we are in a system that makes it very, very difficult to be able to live in our truth. There is an attack that is going on. So we are constantly having to justify ourselves. Cognitive dissonance is something that is replete in every part of life as we know it. You cannot escape it, and from one level to the other, we are all part of it. The only way I think that we can, I think cognitive dissonance will always be a part. It is just played upon and manipulated by those who understand us a lot better than we try to understand ourselves. But I think even in the average of life, I still suffer with the truth of knowing that I'm related to everything, knowing that all things die because all things live, and still feeling that I'm taking a life in order to survive. This is a form also trying to justify that. Vegans or vegetarians, these people try to do this all the time. Some cognitive dissonance I don't think is detrimental. I think that we must always find the reason for the things that we do and justify them within ourselves. But what we're dealing with are people that they would rather know that Obama promised them new phones and a house than they would to believe that Obama didn't mean it, to the point of where even being thrown out in the streets, evicted from their home, and not having an Obama phone, they will still support Obama, like Mark Dice with the petition. We've had almost 8 years of Obama, and we have seen the destruction and devastation that he has done to all races. We're all equal under Obama. And yet those who voted for them in the very first election are still as adamant today that he is the key to America's future, and to their happiness. This is the extreme of cognitive dissonance. The fact that we are running around fighting over flags proves that we no longer have control of our own thinking process. We are no longer the majority. I'm not talking about the people of Awake and those people, our listeners. I'm talking about, this is the reason why people are acting the way they are, is because they are simply not in control anymore. They have allowed themselves to be driven like a herd through cognitive dissonance. And what can we do? Can we help them? Do we help them? Should we help them? How will we help them? This is some of the things that I want to talk about. We're going to take another little song break, Barb, and when we come back, we'll tackle that and see if there's anybody in the chat. If you'd like to join us on air, contact me through Skype, PM Walking Turtle. I'll bring you on. Anybody who would like to call in, 785-336-5190. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out. This is the problem that we're up against. If we can tackle this one, we might just have a chance. Who knows? But anyway, gonna play a few songs, and you're listening to Where the Wild Things Grow, and I am Walking Turtle, joined by Barbara Three Crow and Holly Walker. We'll see you on the other side.
Me and my parents and friends are here at Awake Radio to help people understand the dangers of chemtrails, GMOs, and many other things we are faced with on this planet Earth. Did you know the government is bad? You want to know why? Because they don't like us speaking the truth. Awake Radio was created because we're concerned about what some people are doing to destroy humanity. We all do shows here to help people get a better understanding of what is happening in our world. Thanks for tuning in into Awake Radio, Street Talk for the awake and the aware.
Okay, and welcome back, everybody. And as usual, it's been a very, very good discussion off air, and I want to try and bring it onto air for you. We were talking about children, of course, which are the most precious resource that we have. They are the future. We are the present, bringing up the past and trying to fix this mess that we're in so that our children and their children will inherit something that is worth inheriting. That's what this is all about. It's why we do what we do. The children are the key. And if we keep that in mind, if we remember the things that are important in life, and we reinforce those things in our children at a very, very young age. You know, the one thing that a child needs above all other things besides love is security. They need to know. They have to know. It is imperative that they know that their mother, their father is there for them. That they have that security of knowing they will always be there for them. That is it. That is key to a child feeling secure enough to reach out and experience life. Our system is set up in such a way that it makes a parent's ability to be there tenuous, dependent upon the system that you are entering, whether it be the educational system, whether you are entering into society in general, in neighborhoods, in communities. All of these things are being threatened, and the children are absorbing this emotional baggage at an early age, an age in which it is so important that they are secure, that they are loved, that they do know that someone is there for them. Now, our children are being taken away for things like no vaccination, like religious beliefs, like medicinal use of herbs, for any little thing. If you don't want your child drugged in school, your child can be taken away from you. Your children are living this. They are living this. When they go to school and the teacher tells them, if you don't settle down, we're going to have to put you on drugs, and then your mother is crying at home and saying they want to put my child on drugs or they're going to take him away from me, what is the child absorbing? Security or fear? You know, this is cognitive dissonance at its worst, targeted toward the most vulnerable. Our children are seeing pictures of children dying in wars on TV, on the evening news. Our children are seeing people rising up in the streets. Our children are absorbing. They're watching cartoons and video games which show pictures and images of death and destruction over and over and over and over again. It's normal. It's average. This is the way it goes. The cartoons, the characters are even mean toward each other. the things they say. All of these things are being absorbed by the minds of our children. Cognitive dissonance at its worst. And when does this start? This starts in the womb, because the emotions of the mother create hormone imbalances on top of the hormone imbalances she's experiencing with childbirth alone. It's a very tricky time for life in the womb, when it's very, very, very important that the child in vitro has everything that it needs, including the emotional stability of its parent, of its mother, of its surroundings. And here it is being attacked. We have to do something. We can't sit back anymore. We have to, if we know someone who is experiencing issues, if their children are suffering and we're standing there watching it, saying, oh, that parent, they should be. Why aren't they? Look at that child. He should be. Why isn't he? If we're doing that, then we're doing it all wrong. We're standing on the wrong side. We need to reach out to each other. We cannot correct what is wrong by simply pointing out that it is wrong and hoping somebody has a tool chest with the right tool to pull out and fix it. We've got to start standing up. This is not about us. It's not about me. It's not about you. It has nothing to do with us. We already screwed up. It's about our children. It's about making things right for them. You know? Just saying. Barbara, when we were at break, we were talking with Holy Walker about how children are being inundated with conflicting thoughts and ideologies and through education. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Holy Walker was mentioning this mother he was on Facebook with, talking about what her son is dealing with in school. He suffers from, I think, Asperger's, or, suffers from Asperger's. I mean, I find it quite interesting. Suddenly we have Asperger's, and suddenly we have ADD, and we have ADHD. It seems to be, suddenly to me is the last, say, 20 years. Because prior to that, this diagnosis was not present. And actually I haven't really looked into this thoroughly, but you can Google you can Google about the how the diagnosis of ADD and ADHD has appeared, because suddenly it did appear. Some I don't know, psychologist decided to bring this forward, and later on recounted what he said. You have something to say on this, Holy Walker?
I was just going to say that when I was younger, the doctors tried to tell my mother that I had ADD, and she basically told them to, stuff it.
Yeah. Well, I wish that more parents would do this, because so I guess what we were talking about was what happens to these children, how they're subjected to these prejudices. They're tagged. I call it labeling or tagging. You label a child with ADD or ADHD, or more, disruptive, or a problem child, and then they start the process with this child. The parents are notified by the school that their child is disruptive, and they want to have a conference or a meeting, and so the whole thing leads to basically them being told that your child will not be allowed in school unless you take them to a psychologist. Now, looking at documentaries on this, and this has become an epidemic. Epidemic proportions of especially male children seem to be more diagnosed than girls, and they are on given drugs. The system basically, they don't even ask for what's going on in the household, what's the diet like, is there divorce, what's going on in the background. It's just the immediate prescription comes out for the child on the first visit to take a drug, which basically is supposed to calm the child down so that he can sit in the classroom, sit still, because one of the complaints is they can't sit still. They're unfocused. They talk when not spoken to. So these types of things, they tag a child, ADD, attention deficit disorder. Children are normally that way, but now they've actually found, a use for pharmaceuticals through this diagnosis to push more pharmaceuticals on children. Now, what's happening is one drug or one pharmaceutical does not solve a problem because it leads to additional side effects of that particular drug. So that parents go back to the doctor and say, my child is not sleeping. We have something, we can take care of that. And they write another script. I've seen the documentary on this where an 8-year-old boy had every day, his mother had lined up 8 bottles of different pharmaceuticals for that child to take because of side effects. It becomes a nightmare. And it's really disturbing because these children, basically are not really being seen. They're being told to shut up and put the duct tape on your mouth and just sit still and comply. There's no such thing as the education system now is not about individuality. It's not about developing a child's creativity, their individuality, allowing them to bloom and find their way. It's just basically about complying to become put into the box where they're going to be used later on the gerbil wheel or the worker bees. So I was saying to Holly Walker that I've advised several parents who have children with these same types of issues with school, really a lot of trouble in school. And Holly Walker was saying how this one teacher was even bullying this boy. And yes, that happens. I advise them to get their child out of the education system and get them either homeschooled or take them to an alternative school. It is completely different than the governmental school setup because now the Koch brothers basically has infiltrated into the education system, and pretty much right from the beginning they're funneled into a corporate ideology. The education is about that. It's really not about history. It's not about facts. And we know when we were in school, history was a big lie anyway. It was all manipulated. But so this is the problem with our children. And so, yes, and then you have what we're talking about, the discord, that these children are experiencing. And you have the parents with this cognizant dissonance, which they can't handle facts. They can't handle truth, reality. What are we talking about? We're talking about what's for sale. What's for sale for your child? What are they talking to the consumers? What to buy your child? Now we're talking about the video games. We're talking about the clothing that you were mentioning before. We're talking about all of this type of thing. The parents are dazed. They're just in the zone, and they can't even think for themselves because it might make them uncomfortable, that discord that they feel, that uncomfortable feeling. They can't handle it, so they comply to what they're being guided and brainwashed to do for their children.
Well, and also, one of the worst things is that most parents who are aware that there is an outreach uh, by the people trying to warn them of vaccinations and the dangers of vaccinations, here they are required now in California by the state, by law, that their children must be vaccinated regardless of their religious, cultural, or whatever reasons. That each and every child must be vaccinated in the state of California in order to attend school. Right? All right. So we have parents who may be, in effect, um, uh, aware that there are dangers to vaccines, knowing that they have read the information, they have come to the conclusion that the people were right. Now they're faced with this contradiction that says either you will have your child vaccinated or he won't go to school. And here they are knowing that they have to protect their child, but they can't protect their child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is just added on top of this.
That's right.
It's a war on the psyche of each and every individual. But our children, they are the ones that are most important. They are the ones that matter above all things. So if you're having a problem in California deciding to do the right thing is to save your child from any undue harm. And that being the fact that if he is vaccinated, you are setting him up for harm. So maybe you should leave the state of California. I know that sounds harsh. Patty, how can you tell people this? Because I care about the kids. And because we've got to start making a stand somewhere. Somebody's got to stand up and say, enough. I will do what I have to do to protect my child. And the people surrounding that person should stand up and say, I will do what I can to protect her who is protecting her child. This is what we have to do. If we don't do it, what is the answer? What do we have? You know? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I did it, and there it is.
Well, I tend to agree with you. I mean, if I were living there, I would really consider that. I think that that's what comes to my mind is the drought there that they were talking about, people leaving California in droves. Well, just because of the drought, that piece, that's quite serious, but think about your child. Think about what's going on. Someone was saying to me, well, these vaccines have helped people, prevented them from whatever's. And I'm saying, you have no idea what they're putting in the vaccines now. There's different things now that they're putting in the vaccines, and they are having dire effects upon these children, and they're loading them up with different vaccines. It's not just one vaccine. Now you have to have a series of vaccines, and they're little teeny weeny people. Now they're vaccinating them earlier and earlier and earlier. And it's the same way with the pharmaceuticals. What they're using for these children are really for adults. There have been no studies done on side effects. Basically, they just see the side effects and they give them another drug. So nobody's really doing there's no long-term study done. So they're giving these children these pharmaceuticals with underdeveloped brains. Now, you give an infant, inject them with all these, what is ever in the immunizations. I'm not quite all up on that, but reading about this, I guess it was one senator, I don't even know who it was. I read this last year that his infant granddaughter was given some immunizations and actually had severe complications and wound up dying. And of course that prompted him to start, standing up against this type of early vaccination or so on. But, yes, this is about our coming generations, so we're talking about the dumbing down, we're talking about, the fear-based or uncomfortableness that we feel when the truth hits us in the face. Now, when it comes to your children, when it comes to your grandchildren, do you really have the ability just to turn your head or turn away because it makes you feel uncomfortable? That's a big question. I don't know. It seems like people may be doing that. This is about, harmony, returning to harmony and accord, reinstating that within ourselves, our psyche, because this is a psychological uncomfortableness, a psychological impact that people experience. We're talking about cognizant, dissonance. It makes us feel uncomfortable. So we're talking about harmony and balance and also power. I think people feel powerless. I think people are, trained and brainwashed to believe they are powerless. So if you feel powerless, how can you stand up against something that suddenly hits you in the gut that you feel, wow, this is so not right? What do you gather? What do you turn to? What are the resources that you need? Because we need resources because things are hitting us constantly in the gut and we're saying, holy crap, that is so not right. Do you put your head in the sand and just, go on, la, la, la? Yeah, a lot of people do that. But what are we going to need? We can't continue this way because it's affecting everyone. It's not just a few people. We're all involved in this.
Exactly. And we talk about coming together all the time. All the time we talk about the importance of us dropping the facade, dropping the religion, dropping the political, dropping the everything, dropping our culture, putting it down a step so that the most important thing that we have to achieve is the goal that we set of finally having abundance and peace and truth at the forefront. The only way we can do that is to quit finding reasons to cause dissension, to cause anger, to cause ire, to cause confusion, to cause I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're doing out there. If you're uniting with each and every individual, regardless of who they are and what they're about, simply to reach a higher place of life for our children, a better place, then I'm all for it, dude. I don't care. We can sort the other stuff out later. It'll sort itself out when we all achieve what we all truly desire. And that is a world where we do have peace, where that is the norm, where education is it's infinite. The ability of our children to grow and thrive and flourish is exponential.
Yeah, I think there's a piece here I want to read. I just pulled it up. I don't know how much it's going to give us, but it's about synchrony. Okay, what are the about? This is really about reinstating the contradicting cognitions. So reinstating synchrony, which refers to clarity or knowing. It's the person is a seeker and a questioner. In other words, it sounds like us. We're seekers and we're questioners, but seeking and questioning are characteristic of the uncertainty-oriented who value the process of finding out and anticipate that the mastery of uncertainty will provide positive information value. So the product of knowledge rather than the process of discovery, they are unlikely to seek questions to ask or problem solve. Those are the ones that suffer from the dissidence, conflict. They're not willing, they're unwilling to seek questions or to ask or problem solve. So as not to be confused, they don't want to be confused. So how do we find the synchronicity or the synchrony, the clarity and the knowing? You have to be a seeker. You have to be a questioner. This is what they're basically saying. So finding out when you have uncertainty or you're uncertainty oriented, value of the activity that you move into is finding out. It's a desire inside. Desire comes from something inside of us to understand, to understand the unknown and to resolve inconsistencies, to act, to overcome uncertainty. This is very important to understand that. What is that desire within us? Like, what are the morals? Where do our morals come from? When we see right from wrong, and we can identify right from wrong. So I'm just looking at this, what happens to us when there is an uncertainty that hits us and it affects our uncomfortableness, the conflict, the conflicting discord, I think it's about, the developing of our, like you said earlier, that awareness, that essential awareness and alertness goes very deep inside of us. Is it the spiritual aspect of ourself? Is it the, that truth meter that we have? What is it really that we draw upon? Yeah. I mean, I feel when I see something, I asked the question earlier about, what is it in us that prevents us from lying, or what is it in us that prevents us from deliberately doing harm? Because we all can come to that point. We are all met with these types of challenges. Like, what is it within us that when somebody's saying something to us on the media, what is it within us that says, wait a second, what is he really saying? What is that person really saying? What are we drawing upon, Patty? Because there is something there.
Like I said earlier, I really think it comes down to strength of self, and belief in self, if you can use that word. Which goes in conjunction with what I wanted to add to this, talking about people coming together. We don't have to. There's so many things that people say, well, what do we tackle first? We tackle everything first. There are people out there who know that something's wrong in their own neighborhood, in their own community, in their own state, in their own country. They know on all levels, all different aspects, locally all the way to the top. These people need to act, to keep doing what you're doing, but do it in a positive manner. Do it knowing that each and every other person out there is also doing what they are driven by. The truth wants to be expressed. The truth will always stand ready. But the truth is not overbearing. The truth is as it is. If we choose to ignore truth, then it will be ignored. It's not going to tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm talking to you, hey. When we're dealing with this dissonance because we are being fed adverse truth, we are constantly being nagged at. Hey, and this too. Oh, and this. Oh, don't forget about this. Oh, this too. So it's easy, I think, for me to be able to see the dissonance for what it is. Anything, and maybe that is a little bit of cognitive dissonance with me, is that my truth is my truth, and I don't shake, I don't move. This has been my truth my whole life. Right. And so it's I think it's identification of self, validation of self. I don't know.
Well, I
because I see myself as everything.
I think that's self-confidence, confidence in oneself. Why that is one of the key pieces, really, to living wholly and well, and being comfortable with yourself. How the believing in yourself. I think you can discern opportunities. When you have a self-belief, it basically helps you to have clarity. More clarity of your goals and clarity of understanding opportunities. It helps you find creative solutions to life. When you believe in yourself, you're not fearful and you're not afraid.
Right.
And I think a lot of what we're talking about is based on people's fear of the uncomfortableness or fear of change. It stimulates your ability to be strong, to be persistent, to be dedicated, to meet obstacles.
And my own validation is not dependent on the outside changes in my environment and my society. It is very fluid as far as like you said, when there is no fear, when you can see clearly what is happening on both sides. And I think that is important, that we are aware of everything that we can be aware of, but in such a way that we take it in as knowledge and forget the emotional aspect to it. And we take it in as knowledge, and then we look at it, we put it out in front of us, and we match it with other things and decide from there. I've always been a problem solver. I've always liked puzzles. I would sit for hours and knot big bunches of threads and roll them on spools so my mom would have thread, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Right.
And I think that has a lot to do with it, the willingness to involve yourself in the solution,
Well, the Dalai Lama said...
Yeah, I really do. I really do. And we need the women to start standing up and having their voice heard. And we need the men standing up with the women. Standing with them, not against them. There's so much that we need to change in order to make things right, but everything can be changed in the twinkling of an eye, in the blink of an eye. It's not anything. We don't have to raise money for it, and we don't have to provide transportation for it. We don't have to feed it. All we have to do is do it. Turn to your neighbor, turn to your communities, your neighborhoods, start there. Just start touching base with people and letting them know it's okay. Whatever level you are in realization, in awareness, that's okay. We can work with that. You can either stay where you're at, or you can delve deeper. The knowledge is here for you. But what we need to do right now is make things better for our children. And we can sort all the rest out later. But we need to come together. We need to stop thinking that one thing is more important than the other. That if we just get this right, that'll take care of itself. It's not going to take care of itself. We are self. We are the ones who have the only ability, the only power whatsoever to stop the damage being done to the future generations. We are the only ones. We have everything we need. We don't have to buy it. We don't have to order it from Amazon. We don't have to mix it up. We don't have to dig it up. It's here in us right now. And this is where we've got to come from. We got to start turning to each other and forget the small stuff and tackle the big stuff. I'm just saying. Anyway, Barb, for some reason, they aren't hearing you.
I just said some wonderful stuff.
Got you. My repeater shut itself down. Can you please repeat all that?
I cannot. Oh my God! I don't even know where I began or where I ended. Maybe
I heard
Holy Walker can. Come on, Holy Walker. Can't hear him either.
Well,
I'm just
Skype
saying
trying
it's.
to kick off.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Holy Walker.
Go ahead, Holy Walker.
Skype's trying to knock me off my log.
Lots. I was talking about mindset. I was talking about changing our mind, that we have free will, that we were given the right to choose. And what are we choosing? So this is about our children, our grandchildren, our neighbors' children. We're all involved in this, and we have to choose. Are we going to stick our head in the sand, or are we going to, get smart? Are we going to take our power back? We've been trained to believe we are powerless, that it's all hopeless, that we might as well give up, that it's just too big for me. I can't deal with this. I don't want to know. I just want everything to go away, and I just want my comfortable life back again, the false comfortable life. If you think that your life is comfortable, well, look around. What I'm saying is, if you think you have happiness and inner peace, my question is always, do you feel inner peace? Are you happy? Or what gives you happiness? What gives you inner peace? Or is it, how long does it last? Our state of mind really, I believe, should be, or was meant to be, peace, inner peace, happiness, joy. Our original essence is like that. As little innocent children, all children should be able to feel happy, safe, and peaceful and joyous. So what does your world look like? My question is, if you are finding false sense of security, you don't have inner peace. I'm just saying.
Well, and we have Melody is sitting with us, and Melody O'Brien, and she does have a story to tell.
Okay.
But I don't know if she feels like talking right now. She's on the panel, though. I wanted to say hi to her and let her know that, Melody, if there's anything you want to add, just unmute and let us know. We'd be glad to hear from you. But I think if we are to look at things logically, then we know that there is a massive war being waged against each and every individual. And it doesn't matter whether you think that you're above the dregs and the ponds in the pond, but like CEOs and these people who sit in high places and pad their butts with bucks, it doesn't matter how immune you think you may be. You're no different than the rest of us guys down here, and when the time comes, you'll have to realize that no matter what is done in anger and in hate, no matter what is done against the people, the moment that they decide it's done, it will be done, and there won't be any room for you and the things that you hold dear to validate yourself. Your own cognitive dissonance will bite you in the butt. The people will rise. They are rising. We can't say they're not. If you look around the globe, people are standing up. They're in the streets. They're letting them know that they cannot and will not take anymore. But here and in other places, we have small communities who are slow to react, who are allowing these things to be done to their children, to the people living in those areas, losing their farms, and things like this. We can do something. We can do something. In these small communities, when the community wakes up and the community stands together, the people making the ordinances and the bankers taking the properties, they listen, because these are the people that support these industries and these cults, whatever you want to call them, cartels. There you go.
Cartels, the
You know,
cabals.
it does make a difference. It does make a difference.
Well, I think what we're talking about, I think here is emotions, don't you? I think it's like we're dealing with emotions, and emotion is a mental and physiological state. It's associated basically with a wide variety of feelings, thoughts, and our behaviors. It affects our behaviors. And it's very important that we understand that our emotions determine is a determinant basically for the sense of our well-being. It plays a central role in all of our activities. What are our emotions? So it's like very important. So it's like looking through a pair of colored sunglasses. I'm going to read this because this is an interesting piece, because we're talking about the that dissonance, the conflicting discord, and the fear, and so on that everybody's being subjected to. The emotion that pushes us to stick our head in the sand, the emotion that basically forces us in a state of numbness, dumbing down and numbness of where we don't feel, or we don't get the signals, we don't get the signs, we don't get the clues here. So when we feel good, and this is very important, when we feel good, and I was talking about that inner peace and joy, when we feel good, we see beauty all around us. We're able to do that. When we feel bad, basically our outlook is pretty gloomy. We can't see clearly. When we feel depressed, we tend to be aware of the negative sides of everything. Everything is negative. We can't see the light, in other words. If you believe that there is no light in the dark, okay, that's going to cause you some trouble, because we have to have some form of belief. We have to have a foundation. I call it faith. What do you have faith in? So the possibility of problem solving is diminished through our extreme emotions. It limits the choices for any solution. So problem solving, we're talking about, how do we solve this problem? It's a tool, it's a skill, and it's a process. It can help us solve the immediate problem and also to achieve a goal. So we have to figure out what our goals are. I think it's important what we're talking about is to set a goal, to make some changes, to change our perspective, change our attitudes about what's going on. So I think to kind of determine a goal, what is it that you want your life to be? What is it that you want for your children? These are very important things to look at, and it takes, of course, a focus and a determination to problem solve, but you can't solve a problem if you have a negative belief about everything. If you're stuck in this useless, well, it's useless, why should I even bother? So again, I'm talking about the inner strength and the beliefs that we have, the foundation that we have, and how our emotions are so affected by our beliefs. Our belief system affects our emotions, which affects our behavior and our actions. So I just wanted to point that out, Patty.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And do you ever wonder, does it really actually make you wonder why there are so many different political systems, why there are so many different educational systems, health systems, religious systems. Does it really make you wonder how so many different aspects of the same thing could be created? It's simple. It's part of the cognitive dissonance that was planned. These things are not just happening. They are not just the lucky results of the meddling and the manipulation. These are the intentional actions of those who are in control. And they will not stop, and they will continue to create new and different ways to create this ability of your confusion and your chaos. This is how they operate. It's where we are our weakest. When we let go of that which we are, when we let go of our own self-determination, our own ability to think and to validate our own lives, this is when we become our weakest. And it's no surprise that that's how we got here and what is being done. Understand the problem. The problem is that we are still allowing this cognitive dissonance to rule our lives simply because it is everywhere within our society. We're inundated with it. If we want it to change, if we truly want to stop what is happening, then we have to stop the system. The system was created to bring you to this point. It is not ever going to work the way you want it to work. This system belongs to the machine, and the machine will never, ever be your friend. You are its servant. You are the one who feeds it, the one that makes it go. And you are expendable. And your children and their future is expendable. So knowing this, we know that the machine has to go and the system has to go. Luckily for us is that we have the ability to see a future that is in common with each and every living thing on this planet. We can see it. We know what it is. We know what we want. It doesn't matter how you go about making sure that we get there, just getting out there and supporting each other in doing what they need to do also, you know?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, I was going to say we have, it starts with, we have to recognize that, we could have been wrong. We have to determine within ourselves to actively seek that which we have been mistaken about. Because if we don't recognize the problem, we can do nothing to find a solution to it. If we are not willing to take responsibility for our own actions, our own beliefs, even if we've been taught them as, from the time we were a child, which is how this whole system has been so successful, that we've gotten these beliefs when we were young and we were just accepting. We weren't as critical of what we were taught. We were more trusting of what we were taught and to believe, because that's part of being a child. It's so much easier to get into our heads and manipulate our thought processes, our way of thinking and perceiving things when we're children. And then as we're adults, we learn to be more critical of what we know and how we really feel, what we really believe, and to make the changes according to what we've determined and perceived to be true and right. And so we have to be willing to make those changes, to step back and analyze critically, well, is what I've accepted to be true and taught to believe congruent with reality, with the truth that I can access, the knowledge that I've gained and can avail myself to. And we have to determine to make a change to the ways we think and to what we believe. We have that ability. We're not static. We're not robots. We're not just programmed and we have to follow that program. But we've kind of fallen into that because of how our thoughts and mostly how our emotions have been manipulated. We see that in the lies and promises of politicians and the propaganda of advertising and the concepts that were fed consciously and unconsciously through movies and television shows and our religious services and the associations that we are a part of, the friends that we have and their beliefs, they all rub off on us. We pick them up, and it's mostly unconsciously. So we have to determine to bring it more back into the conscience and determine what is the truth of the matter. What am I going to believe? Am I going to continue to believe what I've always believed just because it's what I've always believed? Or I'm going to make the choice, as I've always had, that free will to make a choice of what I'm going to believe and how that is going to affect the action that I take.
Right.
I also believe that it runs rapid within the educational system. As a parent, it's really hard for me to send my son to a government institution that tells him he's wrong for his belief and his internal thoughts. I had shared an example with Holy earlier regarding this, where my son's elementary school has a zero tolerance policy for bullying, which, it's a great policy. No one wants a child to be bullied or picked on or teased on or treated unfairly. With that being said, my son will speak up against a teacher who he feels is bullying a child unfairly. If he sees a child being yelled at or screamed at by a teacher, or if he sees a teacher manhandling a child, he speaks up. And with doing that, he is being made to believe that he has a problem, that he is a disciplinary and has behavioral issues. And it comes down to the internal struggle of what should he believe? What should he do? What actions are right? And being diagnosed with Asperger's, it's extremely hard for him because he has very logical thinking, very black and white thinking. If you tell him do not bully, do not bully. That means do not bully anyone, no matter who it is or who you are. But then on the flip side, they're saying it's okay for a teacher to be loud and disrespectful to a student because they hold that superiority. He has, said several times within school that he is made to feel like a slave and that the teachers are whip masters and that they try to beat his free thought out of his head. He also says that he is not a robot and he refuses to be reprogrammed by them. As a parent, in one sense, I will admit, in my mind's eye, I'm going, yay, he's standing up for himself. He's speaking. He's a free thinker. But on the other hand, when I go to meetings and say, yay, I'm proud of him for doing this, I am looked down as a bad parent. So it's a really constant struggle when our children are being manipulated at such a young age to have doubt within their own self and their own thought and belief.
Yeah, I can understand. I can hear you. Absolutely.
And not
It's
only
not.
that, they're also undermining the parent at the
Yeah.
same time.
Well, that's the whole point of education today, anyway. As I was saying, and I feel that these children, the children who are diagnosed this way, it's not just these children, those particular children that are struggling with the system. But one thing about these children, about like your son and some of these other children that I've worked with, is they are outspoken and they see the truth. They see the right from the wrong, and they are addressing it and talking about it and making note of it. And unlike the other children who aren't capable of doing that because, well, they're a different type of children. They see things from a different perspective for sure. But I think these children are particularly singled out, like your son, because they're in the eyes of the system. They're too much of a problem. They're disrupting and corrupting what they want to do. Their agenda is to keep all these children subdued. And that's the whole agenda, in my estimation, is to keep these children dumbed down and subdued and, in the box. And if your child, no child should have to endure that. I don't care what the issue is. There's no child that should have to endure this type of behavior. But that is what the education system is basically about now. So, yeah, are you planning on getting your child out of the education system somehow? Do you have that ability?
At the moment, he is moving into a different school. I told him that I would like him to try. No matter what, I want him to have the ability to try to be somewhere, even if it's uncomfortable for him, because I feel it will build his strength. If it gets to a point where it has been the last 2 years in the school he was at, I will definitely pull him out.
Right.
There were times where he would be screaming, I need someone to call the police because my First Amendment right is being stepped on and I am not being allowed to speak my mind when others are.
Yeah.
Just because what I'm saying isn't agreed upon.
How old is he?
Is going to be 11. So
you think of this 11-year-old child saying my First Amendment rights are being stepped on. This is untypical of, pretty much of children that age. And this shows the difference in this type of a child, this uniqueness. This amazing child has this ability, to know the right from wrong, and to make that statement out strong, to have the ability, the strength, and the courage to do that. And that's why they are singled out, and that's why the pressure is put on them so forcefully. That's why they're drugged.
Right. That was the school's suggestion, was that we needed to put him on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, which my husband and I both strongly refused.
Good for you.
I was not going to make their jobs easier by shutting my child up with medication.
That's what they want you to do. Now, he's not, the only anxiety that he's experiencing is due to their behavior.
Right, exactly. And that's what I try to explain to them. Believe me, we went to meetings that lasted 2-3 hour long meetings, where we just constantly reiterated what he needed to be able to flourish in his environment in the school. What he needed, all he needed was to be able to take a break when it became too overwhelming. All he needed was, it was just little things that they could have.
Easy, simple things.
If he seems stressed out or he can't follow the curriculum, give him a ball of Play-Doh. that will calm him down enough to be able to participate without feeling overwhelmed. But it was more of, oh, well, he just always wants to butt heads with us. And I said, but he's not butting heads with you. And if you were to take his conversation out of the classroom and put it into an adult environment, there are a lot of adults who would have agreed with him.
Exactly.
But they are being paid to be able to brainwash these children, and schools are being graded on how well they do on the PARC testing or kneecap or and are given
or core, or the new core education, Common Core. I was invited to go to speak at one of the local schools years ago because I talk a lot about the star children, who have these abilities. They're wise, they're very wise, they're far advanced for their ages. They can intuit the false information, they can intuit the lies, they speak out. These are the children that are becoming diagnosed with ADD and ADHD and so on, and bipolar and all that. And I have taught a lot about the star children, and they're very unique children, and so on. And one of the teachers had come to one of my talks, and she asked me to come to the school. They were having a teacher's development day where you had different speakers in different rooms, and various teachers would go, to these classes to hear the speakers. Now, my talk was filled right away. All of the teachers wanted to hear what I was going to say. And when I started talking about what defines a star child, this unique child that does not fit into the system, that basically is considered or diagnosed as the problem child, and will often fall through the cracks because of the system, and becomes the problem child either on drugs or whatever they do. All the teachers said to me, we're very familiar with these children, but we don't know what to do with them. And I said, what you have to do is throw out the textbooks. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Of course they can't throw out the textbooks because they're paid, like you said, they're paid to go by the book. This is not about an individual child. This is about a structured system to basically hone these children into a box. And that's it. And if you're unique, if you're outside that box, you become the problem child and you get put on drugs. And this is very serious and this is very real. I said this is a heart-centered connection with these children. This is not a textbook connection,
Right.
Well, your child has you and your strength and your support, and that is so important. Thank goodness for that.
Thank you. We learned very early on that we not only need to be his parent, we need to be his advocate.
Yeah.
Because nobody else is going to advocate for him.
Yeah.
And it's disheartening. Right now, he has issues with the Common Core. And he begs me, can I please lead a protest at my school regarding the Common Core? And I said, Devin, you can do whatever you want to do, as long as you're doing it off school hours and you're not invading on their teaching time. Because I try to let him be a free thinker, free speaker,
right?
But also teach him the respect that
right.
If you do it on their time, you become the problem. It's not them being the problem. Do you know what I mean? And
I do. Well, he's going to be quite a young man.
He said he wants to be president, but he wants to change the government to where we do not recognize it.
Right.
And I just try.
So do I. I want him to do that too.
Yeah. Well, I know parents who, unfortunately, who buckle under the pressure, and it is a lot of pressure, who will buckle under the pressure. And that's sad because this is about their own child being, given drugs, reprimanded for their uniqueness, for their specialness, for their individuality. And what kind of message they're basically forming to be, young adults, and the message that they're getting is to comply. You must comply, period. And this is the big issue that we've been talking about for so long, is that this is the brainwashing system that wants everybody to comply. If you're a little bit outside of that, you're in trouble. So he needs all the support that he can get, and it's good that you're there on his side. And he's gonna have challenges. He's gonna have life challenges. Some of us talking on these talk shows went through this similar things. So yeah. It'll be rough, but as long as he has you to be on his side and give him that support and help him, he'll make it through. He'll be all right.
Thank you.
Yeah. He's got a good, strong base there with Mom. And I'm sure that the reason why he is so able to speak out is because he's been given that confidence. And that comes with a parent who's willing to validate their child. We've talked about that before. It's very important for children to know that they matter, that they are accepted, that they are part of. And it's so hard today with the way society is set up for a child to bond, for a child to have that ability to know that they are the center of the house, that all love is focused there, and to be secure in that. It's something that's missing today, and sorely missed at that. But we got about 25 minutes left to the show. I want to let everybody know that coming up after Where the Wild Things Grow, we will have Tribal Voices with Chief Charles Two Dog. He'll be joined by Luca Mano, and their guest will be Mark DeVille from the UK. So please stay tuned for that. But right now, guys, I'm going to take just a little break. And welcome back, everybody, to Where the Wild Things Grow on the Awake Radio Network group. And you're listening to TCT Radio, part of the Awake Radio Network group. We're joined today by Barbara Three Crow, Holly Walker, and Melody O'Brien, who has been telling us the story of how she and her son have had to deal with the school system, the educational system, the indoctrination system, which is what we've been talking about today, some of what we've been talking about, how our children are being forced, and parents are being forced to make changes that they know are unjust, that they know are immoral, that they know are damaging to their children. They're trying to force them into making these decisions. A lot of times, if you don't do it, we were just talking during the break, and I'm going to turn this over to Melody to go over for us. But in her case, her child is gifted and is able to see very clearly the manipulations. When he speaks out about this in school, their reaction is not, oh my gosh, this child is brilliant. No, it's quite the opposite. It's, oh my gosh, this child needs to be put on drugs. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Melody, and go over that for us, if you would. Tell us that, what you were talking about during the break with your son in the school.
It's like I said previously, it's very disheartening as a parent. You want the best for your child. You send your child where you are forced, basically, unless you can homeschool or pay for a private school that will teach the way you think. We're forced to hand our children over to these people, and their job is to break the child's mind, thought, and will. And I refuse to have that happen. To me, that's no different than a person physically abusing my child. I would not put up with a person physically, sexually, or emotionally breaking my child. I and any other parent shouldn't have to put up with people manipulating our children's minds and brainwashing them and reconditioning them and acting like they do not have the brain capacity to think for themselves. We were told it would be easy to put them, easier for them and my son if we put him on medication. We refused. We were looked at as incompliant when refusing. We've been looked down upon at meetings and treated like we didn't know what we were talking about because we don't have a PhD or a certificate in special education behind our names. There's been many times where I've gone to lectures on autism and see the same people that are in the school systems battling with me, trying to educate the general public on situations they have no knowledge on. It's disheartening. It really is disheartening. I think a lot of the problems is once a teacher gets tenure and understands that they have to follow the curriculum or they can lose their jobs, the person who was bright-eyed coming out of college going, I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to make a difference in a child's life, ends up falling into as a cog into the machine. And it's sad. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very sad.
It's well put. Cog into the machine is exactly what it is. They are turning our children into cogs for the machine, and they are shaping them into the correct shape and size for whatever part of the machine they need them in. Very, very good analogy, truly.
Thank you.
But anyway, we've got about 11 minutes left, and Holy Walker, I'd like to see if we can hear from you before the show is over, if you'd like to, if your mic is okay and your phone is okay.
Yep, I'm here. I'm good for now, at least for this second. Yeah, like I was saying when we were on the break, made the comment that I kind of wanted to share. What happens?
Wait, I hear you.
I got my connection kind of cut out. When I believe that children like this, we've allowed these crazy psychopaths. They changed the name a little bit, call them psychologists or psychiatrists. Not much difference. They come up with these labels for, being human. They got to categorize us, and, if we're special, then it's got to become some kind of disease or disorder or syndrome. Because we see a little bit further than most other people. It's got to be crazy because we have an insight that they're deficient in. So I guess to make themselves feel better, they label us and try and give people the perception that there's something wrong with the special ones. And I believe that children such as this, they are gifts from the Creator to have that special ability to not put up with the bull excrement, and to speak clearly, not be intimidated and manipulated by their insecurities, and to speak the truth to us and say the things that should be obvious to us all, and to teach us to get back to that sanity, that rational thinking and understanding. People, we got to stop enabling people to have these superiority complexes that allows them to label these special gifts from the Creator that we need at this time, because so many people are just falling asleep mentally and psychologically, emotionally, even spiritually, and they allow it to happen. We all have the ability to say no more. I can determine that I will be better. I will make better decisions. I will determine to learn the truth so I can make those better decisions. We need to start standing up for our children and the children in the schools that are being bullied by these supposed authorities, and that are, they're telling our children, because we're the adult and we're the authority, you have to respect us. It doesn't matter whether we're disrespectful and have dishonored that respect. Just respect us because we say so. That doesn't work anywhere else. Only in the schools and in politics and things like this does it make sense, and it's completely irrational. We've allowed this to happen. It's time to say no. You're not special just because you claim a certain piece of paper that you went and wasted 6 years of your life to get.
Okay, I think we've lost you, Holy Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Skype is also not responding. I am really amazed that the whole time Holy Walker's been talking, my Skype has been whited out. I can't get to it. So I'm just going to keep on going like this. We've got about 5 more minutes before Tribal Voices with Chief Charles Two Dogs. So please stay tuned. And Barb, you want to have a parting comment, please?
Yeah, I just put up on the chat and on the banter room in your site the documentary on the drugging of our children. I highly recommend this video. We're basically talking hardcore class 2 narcotics that they are giving children diagnosed, with ADD, ADHD, bipolar, and various other things. Whatever they can diagnose a child with, it doesn't matter. They want to get them on these drugs. Their side effects include stroke and heart attack, increased blood pressure, sudden death, new or worse behaviors and thought problems, new and worse bipolar illness, new and worse aggressive behavior or hostility, psychotic symptoms such as hearing voices, believing, things that are not true, new manic symptoms, increased heart rate, slowing of growth, height and weight in children, seizures, eyesight changes or blurred vision. These are just, one of the things they're talking about is these children that are on these drugs are actually committing suicide. There's a spike in that. So, it's so important. And what Holy Walker said, all children are gifts from the Creator. And including you listeners, us here on the panel, we're all gifts, and we are responsible for our children. They don't belong to us. We are caretakers of them. We are guardians of them. They are gifts from the Creator. And so, when we hear about these things happening, it takes a lot of courage a lot of persistence, a lot of endurance, and a lot of strength to deal with the attitudes of these people, the system, the education system, or the authorities. That's what we're talking about. They're ruled by the authorities as well. Yes, they are being paid to follow the rule of the authorities. And let me tell you, this is a big piece here because, as I mentioned before, that the Koch brothers have now infiltrated their corporate ideology completely into the system, into the education system, starting very early on. And it is not about a child's sacredness. It is not about a child's beauty of mind, creativity, uniqueness. It is all about, getting them into the box so that they behave and they become the worker bees. So I just congratulate all parents who stand up against this and fight for their child, support their child. That's all I want to say. It's not easy, but, it can be done. It's hard, but you can do it.
I agree. And each and every one of us need to support these mothers, these fathers, in ensuring that their voice is heard, that they are the determining factor in their child's health, in their child's education, in their child's life. And we need to reiterate that. And we need to stand together to make sure that they hear us loud and clear. Because if we don't, and we have to stand alone against the mountain, we're not gonna make it. Each child is our child when it comes to the future. We need to think about that. Every single child is important, just like every single individual is important right now to make sure that we make it to the future that we want. And with that being said, you've been listening to Where the Wild Things Grow, and on the Awake Radio Network group. Coming up, Tribal Voices with Chief Charles Two Dog and co-host Luca Mano. And we'll be playing a little bit of music while we get them on. And I see if I can restart my Skype. And it'll be a good show, so please stick with us. We'll see you in a little bit with Tribal Voices.
Are you awake and aware? Start by asking yourself some questions. Do you question any and all authority? This is not necessarily a bad thing. Do you question laws being put into place each and every day? And who really believes that any one man or woman should have the supposed power to do so? Do you question that your vote actually counts on election day? Because really, most all of those running are related by bloodline, just as British rule. Do you question the idea why one must work so hard to make a living? After all, this is the only planet in the galaxy you have to pay to live on. If you have answered yes to any or all of these questions, you are awake and aware, or at least well on your way to becoming so. Welcome to Awake Radio. awakeradio.us, awakeradio.co.uk.